Obviously, we know that Noah and his family survived the flood. There was Noah and his wife, who it doesn't name, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And then, of course, their wives. So it was the 8 of them. Now, when you look at Josephus, when they left the ark, they were a little leery of going down into the valley because they were afraid of the aftermath of the flood. And you got to understand, the flood is not some, oh, the waters are done, here's a rainbow, now we can go back to life as before. The earth is still devastated. There are still bodies floating in the water. There are still giant bodies that are decomposing. It makes sense for them to still be terrified. Now, the plain in which they first dwelt was called Shinar. God also commanded them to send colonies abroad for the thorough peopling of the earth, that they might not raise seditions among themselves, but might cultivate a great part of the earth and enjoy its fruits after plentiful manner. In other words, don't do what Abraham and Lot did when they started to grow numerous. They started having quarrels among themselves. That's why God told them to split up so they wouldn't have these seditions. But they were so ill instructed that they did not obey God, for which reason they fell into calamities. Now it was Nimrod who excited them to such an affront and contempt of God. He was the grandson of Ham, the son of Noah, a bold man and of great strength of hand. He persuaded them not to ascribe it to God, but to believe that it was their own courage which procured that happiness. Now that's interesting, because when I hear that, I think of Cain, who was cursed because he killed Abel, but he refused that curse and decided, no, I'm going to obtain things by my own works. They said that he did it by violence, rape. He procured wealth to himself, and then his descendants, such as Lamech, whose name means powerful, ended up doing the same thing. So what we see in Nimrod is someone who is carrying on the same legacy post the flood that was happening in the earth that brought the flood on to start with. Now, one of the questions I have, where is he deriving all this evil intent from? Cush fathered Nimrod, who began to be powerful in the land. He was a powerful hunter in the sight of the Lord. That is why it is said, like Nimrod, a powerful hunter in the sight of the Lord. And some translations say that he was a mighty hunter in the face of the Lord, or he was a mighty hunter from the Lord. In this regard, before means in the presence of God. Just like the Bible says, thou shalt not have any gods before me or any gods in my presence. Nimrod was a tyrant in God's presence. Nimrod is credited with being the Sumerian king Gilgamesh, who is called the first potentate post-diluvian. Both of them are credited with building the Tower of Babel. Both of them are credited with building walled cities. Both of them are credited with doing activity that led people away from God and procuring people to themselves and being tyrants in the earth. And both of them live right after the flood. I will proclaim to the world the deeds of Gilgamesh. This was the man to whom all things were known. This was the king who knew the countries of the world. He was wise, he saw mysteries and knew secret things. He brought us a tale of the days before the flood. Interesting. Keep that in mind. 2/3 God they made him, and 1/3 man. And it says that the 7 sages laid the foundation. All of this is found in the first tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh. The implication is that Gilgamesh was born after the flood. So Gilgamesh is going to go find one of his forefathers, Utnapishtim, or he's also known as the Far Away. He lives in the land of Dilmun. The gods told him they were going to destroy the earth, and they saved him and his wife. Is Utnapishtim Noah? And is Gilgamesh Nimrod? How did Nimrod end up becoming such an evil person when all evil has been eradicated before he was born? Noah gets off the ark with his family. And a lot of people say that, Noah, the Bible says that he got drunk when he created the vineyard, and Ham committed a very sinful act against him of homosexuality or whatever the case is. That's not true. The Bible here says that while Noah was sleeping, Ham uncovered his nakedness. And then it says that when Noah woke up and realized what he had done, he said, "Cursed be Canaan." Well, why would he curse Canaan if Ham did something? The first and oldest son of Ham is Cush. Then there's Mizraim. Then there's Put. Then there's Canaan. Canaan is number 4. So why is he getting cursed? Well, we have to understand language. Moses wrote Genesis. He also wrote the next 4 books of the Bible. And when he was writing the law, he was talking about different acts that were a sin and an abomination. He said that if a man lays with another man's wife, he has uncovered that man's nakedness. Translation: while Noah is sleeping and drunk, Ham actually sleeps with his mother. Make no mistake, this was no voluntary act on her part. She was raped and she got pregnant, and that son was Canaan. When Noah awoke from his drinking and learned what his youngest son had done to him, he said, Canaan is cursed. He will be the lowest of slaves to his brothers. Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. Let Canaan be Shem's slave. Now that's a problem, because my first thought was just like you said, that he would be a slave to his brothers. So does that mean he's going to be a slave to Cush, Mizraim, and Put, since he's the son of Ham? No, you said he's going to be the slave of Shem, which means that Shem is his brother. So if Canaan is Shem's slave and he's going to serve his brothers, that means that Shem and Canaan are brothers. Why is this important? Keep in mind, Nimrod is not in the lineage of Canaan. He's in the lineage of Cush. But he is still a son of Cush, who is a son of Ham, and all of Ham's family is feeling the repercussions of this. They actually leave and they go in a different direction. They separate. That's where part of this dispersion takes place. It's a portal of iniquity. A gate of iniquity has been opened up inside of Ham's bloodline, and Nimrod is not happy about it. Now, we can understand his disdain now, but it still leaves a whole lot of gaps in how he ends up getting to where he is now. According to the Epic of Gilgamesh, the foundations of his kingdoms that he built were laid by the 7 sages. These 7 sages are Nephilim. That means that they are half mortal and half divine. Even if their bodies have decayed, they're still spirits dispossessed of their body and still wandering, trying to find a home. Is it possible, because of the iniquity that was opened up in Ham's family, these dispossessed spirits at some point found Nimrod? And could he have been possessed with one of those spirits? So now all of a sudden this claim of him being 2/3 God or 2/3 divine makes sense, because he has a greater portion of a spiritual entity possessing his body. If we're saying that he was possessed by a spirit before the flood, who was that spirit, and can we know? When you look at the Book of Giants, you actually see these Nephilim gathering together and talking about these dreams of this calamity that's about to take place on the earth, and what can they do to stop it. One of the Nephilim that is there present is Gilgamesh. So the Epic of Gilgamesh says that he wasn't around before the flood, but the Book of Giants clearly shows that he was. So let's say Gilgamesh is there in this meeting before the flood. His body does not survive it, and now he is a roaming spirit who finds a willing vessel, possesses Nimrod, and now Nimrod is 2/3 God, 1/3 man, and he is being guided by these other demonic spirits to build civilization and become the first post-Diluvian potentate. What about Utnapishtim the far away? Because it still sounds like we could be borrowing stories. Well, that's another problem that we're running into, because the name Utnapishtim actually shows up in the Sumerian Kings list. The Sumerian Kings list is a list of antediluvian and post-Diluvian kings, right? So in this epic, Utnapishtim is this nice older gentleman who is supposed to be this somewhat pastoral character for Gilgamesh. Did we borrow that from them, or did they borrow that from us? Well, according to the Sumerian King list and other sources, Utnapishtim was another Nephilim tyrant before the flood, except his reign got interrupted by what? The flood. If he's showing up again after the flood, one of two things happen. Either he's one of the dispossessed spirits that's found influence in the post-Diluvian world, or he actually survived the flood.